Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our early birds. Welcome to our Workforce Retention Grant, or WRG overview. My clock says 9:56, so we'll get started in about 5 minutes. Karina, is my screen big enough, or do I need to zoom it in today? Or does it look good?
It looks pretty good, but you can zoom it in. Can you zoom it in? Let me see what it looks like.
Sure. Let me
Is it a difference?
let's see here. Do. Is that better?
I didn't see a difference.
Oh, okay.
I don't see a difference.
Okay. If you don't see a difference, then it's good. I'll give everyone instructions too on how they can zoom it in on their device when we start. Oh, you know what? Because I had the screen pause. Okay, what about now? How does this look?
That's better. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Welcome, Jessica.
Hey, Piper.
Welcome, everyone, to our Workforce Retention Grant, or WRG overview. We'll get started in about 3 minutes. Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to our Workforce Retention Grant, or WRG overview. My clock says just 10 o'clock, so we'll give it about 1 more minute before we get started. Jessica, we have about 73 attendees/participants. Do you think we're good to get this kicked off?
Yeah, I think we can give it like 1 more minute and then we can go ahead and get started.
That sounds great.
Thanks, Piper.
We had about 10 more people join, so I'm going to go ahead and get us kicked off so that we have lots of time for our presentation and questions. Hello, everyone. Good morning. Happy Thursday. Welcome to our Workforce Retention Grant overview. Before I forget, I am going to hit the record button. Oh, we're already recording. Fantastic. Today, we're going to go over the Workforce Retention Grant and a couple of housekeeping items before we get started. First is that all lines are muted. However, we do want you and encourage you to ask questions today. So please put those questions into the Q&A box that is part of your WebEx panel. You will, to start, only see questions that you have put into that Q&A box. Once a question is answered, it will be available for you to see. Secondly, we are recording today's session, so if you have any colleagues that missed it, we will be sharing it out. And now I'm going to pass it over to I'll do our agenda first, and then I'll pass over to Jessica Nielsen. So today we're going to go over an overview of the grant. We'll talk about component A and component B. We'll go over program and staff eligibility, the application process, and we'll actually do a live demo in the application. We'll then talk about award amounts, expenses, and questions. Now I'm going to pass it over to Jessica Nielsen from OCFS.
Thank you, Piper. Good morning, everyone. This session specifically is going to focus on applications and eligibility for SACC programs. So we're going to go through the general overview, like Piper said, and then we'll more specifically talk about eligibility for SACC programs. You can go ahead, Piper. So the purpose of the grant is to support the early childhood education and childcare workforce by providing funds for staff retention bonuses and recruitment activities. And this is a total $500 million grant opportunity. The Workforce Retention Grant has two components. Only eligible childcare programs can apply for the grant. Individual staff cannot apply. Applicants that are awarded will receive one grant that includes two components or two payments. And you must comply with all grant terms and eligible expenses for each of the components. So component A, that's the staff retention bonus. The program applies for the request for the bonus on behalf of all their existing eligible staff. The entire bonus amount must be given to the staff that's eligible at the time of payment. Component B, which is the second payment of the grant, this is for staff recruitment expenses and for payroll. So for staff recruitment, you'll receive funds to pay for expenses related to recruiting and hiring new staff. And for the payroll tax assistance portion, this is used by the program. So this is the portion that the program can spend to offset employer taxes that are incurred when you issue the bonus payments to your staff or for recruitment expenses. Staff retention and payroll tax assistance. So based on program type, the number of eligible staff in OCFS and DOHMH databases, programs will select which staff are eligible. On your application, there will be a staff roster that's going to be generated. So from that roster, you determine which staff, based on the eligibility requirements, which we will go over, are eligible for the grant. Total funds for each childcare program will be determined by multiplying the number of eligible staff by the appropriate per staff award amount, which right after this, we'll get into a chart of what those amounts are. Staff recruitment awards, that's a single payment based on program type. You can go ahead to the next slide. So in this slide, I'll explain what we were just talking about. So as you can see here, for SACC programs, the staff retention award amount per staff is $2,300. So however many staff that you end up having eligible, you will multiply by the $2,300. The payroll assistance award amount per staff is $176. This is the component B payment or the second payment. So for that payment, the same, you're going to multiply the 176 by the number of eligible staff that your program has. The staff recruitment award is per program. That's also part of your second payment. So in your component A or your first payment, you'll receive the staff bonus amounts. In your second payment or component B, you'll receive the payroll tax assistance award amount, which is the 176 times the number of staff you have eligible, and you will receive the per program award of $6,000. You can go ahead to the next slide. So in order for a SACC program to be eligible, your facility must be in good standing, meaning that it's licensed, registered, or permitted. It's in a payable status and not on fiscal sanction list. And your program is not subject to enforcement. So it's a little bit different for SACC programs than other modalities when applying for this grant. We understand that a lot of programs that operate during this time of year are operating not under their OCFS license, or they are on vacation. So SACC programs are eligible to apply and receive grant funds, even if you're not currently operating at the time of the application due to a planned school break, as long as you meet the following criteria. So you're eligible to apply as long as you anticipate being operational and serving at least one child in person on the first full week of school instruction, but no later than 9/20/23. The second criteria is that you have to have a current staff roster cleared with OCFS with eligible roles. And in order to know what those eligible roles are, you can refer to the SOI. At least one of those staff you have to expect that they are resuming their position in the first full week of school instruction, but no later than 9/20/23. Your program will also be attesting that you will accept families receiving funding through Child Care Assistance Program to be eligible for the grant. You can go ahead to the next slide. So that was the program eligibility. So as a program for you to apply, that was the eligibility criteria. Now we're going to talk about the staff eligibility. So again, your program will apply. You'll have a staff roster that's generated on your application, and you're going to identify the staff that are eligible from the staff roster that's on your application. So in order for a SACC staff person to be eligible to receive a bonus payment, and they must meet the following requirements at the time the program submits the application and at the time of the grant payment. So they must be employed at the physical location of the child care program, have an active child caring role, provide direct supervision to children not related to the provider. They must be paid through the employer's payroll and have state and federal taxes withheld from their paycheck. And they must have worked an average of 10 hours per week between January 1st, 2023 and June 26, or from the start of their employment to June 26. If you need assistance with calculating and figuring out the average hours that the employee has worked, we do have resources available on our website that can support you in doing that. One of the other criteria that I highlighted here, because we did get some questions in the last session around this area, is that they must have been fingerprinted and have completed necessary background information documents for at least provisional employment, if applicable, on or before June 26, 23. So provisional means that the staff must have been fingerprinted and has completed the necessary background check information, meaning they have submitted their 6,000 packet. Just a note here that eligible staff must meet these requirements on the day of the application and upon the program dispersing the grant funds. So just some tips that we wanted to give you. So if SACC programs are applying prior to resuming their operations, they should claim the staff that you anticipate are returning from the staff roster. So for example, if at the close of the school year, you had 3 staff, all of them have said to you, yes, we're going to return at the start of the new school year in September, you would claim each of those staff as long as they meet the eligibility requirements of the 10 hours a week being in a child caring role and they are at least provisionally cleared. If you're aware that the staff is not returning and they're on your roster, you should not claim those staff on the grant application. The staff bonus can be used as a form of incentive for staff to return. If your staff are aware that they can receive this bonus for coming back at the start of the school year, that may be a way to kind of incentivize them returning to the program. If you anticipate that a staff was returning and you claim them on the application, if the program meets eligibility requirements, so you've claimed them on your application, you think the staff is returning, they don't return. You can use those funds towards the component B, which is recruitment. And you will have expense reports where you will identify if this scenario happens. So now I'm going to hand it back over to Piper. We're going to talk a little bit about the application process, and Piper's going to give a demo of what the application looks like and just some pointers on different parts of the application.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Jessica. Now, before we get started, just a couple of things to be aware of. Providers will apply using the existing child care grant application portal. This is linked from the OCFS DCC Workforce Supports website, and they'll use their personal ny.gov ID. So if they've applied for any previous grants, such as stabilization or deserts, they'll use that same login information, and this will be a familiar process to them. The application is available in 12 languages. I'll show you where you can change that language should English not be your primary language. And last but not least, very, very important here, the grant applications opened on 7/26/23, and this will close, so you must have your application submitted by 9/15/23 at 11:59 p.m. If you are at midnight on 9/16, your application will not be accepted, so it's really important to get that application in as soon as possible. So you don't miss that deadline. All right, let's go to our live demo. I'm going to stop sharing and then I'll reshare in just a minute. So don't get worried here. I'm going to pull over my my website here. Do note that this does work best in Chrome and Edge, I believe, are the two approved true approved web browsers here. All right, so let me go ahead and share Google Chrome here. All right, so I am in a test account today, did want to make that very clear. And so I can't show you the login process because I do have to log in a little bit different way. But after providers log in using their personal my.ny.gov ID, they'll be brought to this page. If they don't have a my.ny.gov ID, they can easily create one. Just takes a couple of quick steps. If they're not sure if they have one, they can enter in their email and check that out. Now, as I mentioned, the application is available in 12 languages. And to change the language, you'll go to the top right here where it says English, and then you can change it to any other language needed. And I'm just going to open my Q&A in case any questions come up so I can be sure to address those. Now, what individuals will do is you'll come to this page, you'll then scroll down, and as I mentioned, I am in a test account, so you won't see a lot of these things. You'll just see all the grant opportunities available. And you'll come down until you see Workforce Retention Grant, lists eligibility, so who is eligible to apply, lists the start date and end date, and what you'll do is click Apply/Review. After selecting Apply/Review, you will need to confirm, so prove that you are who you say you are, right? So there's going to be a verification step. We need to verify you and your eligible facility to access the system. You can only complete one application at a time per facility, and make sure that you are using the correct facility ID appropriate for the grant you are interested in. And so the first thing you'll want to do is come down where it says start a new application and enter your license or registration number or your DC ID. And I have some test accounts over here. So I'm going to go ahead and put one of these in. So I'm simply going to copy and paste this. Now, if you don't know where your license or registration number is or DCID, there is this super handy link right here that when you open this, it'll show you exactly where to find that information on your documentation. And do make sure, a little tip here, that there are no spaces before or after the number. Sometimes they sneak in there and you go and you click search and it says that your facility ID here doesn't, your license or registration number here doesn't exist. Might be that you have a space before or after. So do check that. You'll then click the search button. And if you've done everything correctly, your facility will appear below. There we go. Do confirm that this is the appropriate facility. This is the one that you want to apply for the grant for. You'll then click select, and then you'll click next. And what's going to happen, this is that verification process, is once you click next, a one-time security code, and this is very important, a one-time security code will be sent to the email associated with the provider record in the New York City or New York State database. Now, I say this is important because this email may or may not be the same as the email you used to log in to access the grant. So do think about what that email is and have it handy. You'll want to have it handy because the security code does expire 10 minutes after it's requested, and it can only be used once. So now we'll click the next button. And I am going to get a security code. We'll see. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. As mentioned, test account. Let's see what happens today. It's always a surprise for me, but I'm prepared either way. All right. So in this instance, I didn't. If you did get that what would happen if you did get that security code is a page pops up. It says, please enter your security code. You'll go to the email associated with this facility in the New York City or New York State database. You'll grab that code and then you'll enter it in. Once you've done that, you'll be brought to a page that looks like this. And what you're going to do now is scroll down until you see that workforce retention grant option. And now you're going to click the apply button. And this is where we're going to start our application. Note that there are 7 steps in the application. And the first page that you'll be brought to is an instructional page. Gives you general instructions about filling this out. Also, you are welcome to, this will also give you access to the Workforce Retention Grant website in case you need more information. Says who is eligible, reminds you of the deadline. And then if you do have any questions, you can always reach out to your local CCR&R, or there is a Workforce Retention Grant helpline available here Monday through Friday from, I think, 9:30 to 4:30. Once you've read through this information, you'll then click the next button, and this will bring us to the first official step of the application process, which is the general applicant information. Much of this information is pre-populated from that New York City or New York State database. Do look through this carefully. If any of the information is incorrect, do reach out to your license/regulator or the DOHMH borough office, and please wait for that information to be updated before completing the application. Now on the left here, you'll be able to see exactly where you are in the application process. If you scroll to the bottom of this page, you'll see 3 questions marked with a red star or asterisk. as you move through this, note that anything with a star or asterisk next to it is required, and you will not be able to proceed until you have answered the following questions. So on this first page, the following questions we're asking are the operator director race, operator director ethnicity, and the operator director gender. So I'll go ahead and I will fill these in. And then I'll click the Save and Next button. Once you get through the first step, if you need to, you can exit the application and come back at a later date and time. So if you do get pulled away or need any additional or need to gather additional information, there is an exit button right here. All right, so our next step is the staff retention bonus certification. At the top here, you will see all potentially eligible staff. You'll also notice that you have now been assigned an application number, which means your application is active. And again, you could save and exit to come back. There are 3 questions that you must answer. If you respond no to any question here, then the staff will not be eligible to receive a bonus. So the 3 questions are, has this individual worked an average of 15 hours per week from January 1st, 2023 to June 26th, 2023, or from the start of employment to June 26th, 2023? Now, you are all SACC providers, so for you, it's not 10 hours, it's 10 hours, excuse me, not 15 hours. So we're wondering, has this individual worked 10 hours per week between January 1st, 2023 and June 26th, 23, or from the start of their employment to June 26th? Second question, at the time of this application, is this individual in a child caring role in which they provide direct supervision to children not related to the staff? So when this individual does come back to work at your program, will they be in a child caring role? And to your knowledge, the employee has not already received the bonus payment issued from this grant from another child care program. So what we're asking here is, potentially this individual could work at more than one child care program, and we just want to make certain that, to your knowledge, they have not been claimed by another program. Now, again, in order for this individual to be eligible to receive the staff retention bonus, you do need to answer yes to all of these questions. So we're going to do this twice. We'll answer yes for Susan, and we'll do a couple of no's. We'll do 1 no for Doug.
Piper, do you mind if I just jump in for a second on that
Please do.
third question? Okay.
Yeah.
So we know that this third question has tripped a lot of people up. So we have a tip sheet available for that on our website of specifically answering that question of, to your knowledge, the employee has not already received the bonus payment. If you answered this question incorrectly and you have already submitted your application, please reach out to your local CCR&R, and we have that information available on our website and also at the end of this slide deck. So please reach out to your local CCR&R, and they will assist you with determining if the staff was eligible, and if you answered the questions incorrectly, they will escalate that information directly to OCFS, and we will notify you when changes have been made.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jessica.
One other
Okay.
point. If for some reason you do not see a staff on this list, you should also reach out to your local CCR&R and give them the information on the staff that is missing and you think should be eligible, and they will escalate that information to OCFS.
Wonderful. And there was a question that came in, if staff were eligible to begin if they were worked in February or March. Absolutely. They just have to have worked an average of 10 hours per week from the start of employment to June 26, 2023. So they could have started in, January, February, March, April. They just need to have that 10 hours average per week. All right. So now.
And sorry, one other point.
Yeah,
I'm
go
so
for
sorry.
it.
This slide is a tricky one. So One other point is that if for some reason you do notice that there's something you either made an incorrect choice or you're missing someone off your staff roster, please still submit your application. We at OCFS will make those changes to your application, but we want to make sure that you get submitted and in by the deadline. So please do not wait. You can go forward with submitting your application and we will make those changes once we determine if the staff is eligible.
Great point. Thank you for that, Jessica. And somebody did ask about license. So if you do have multiple programs, you will need to do this for each and every one of your programs. As Jessica mentioned, the CCR&R is the group you can reach out to with questions, and that information has been populated at the bottom of this page. Now, if we know that staff have already received a bonus from another program, you will see that here and they will be ineligible to receive the staff retention bonus from your program. All right, so let's save and next. And remember, I answered yes for Susan and I answered 1 no for Mike here. So we're going to click next. And our next step here is the estimated grant award amount. So we have our estimated workforce retention grant amount. So total grant amount is $8,476. Staff retention bonuses, as you see here, is just $2,300 because I did answer no, that Mike did not work those 10 hours. Payroll tax assistance, again, is 1 per eligible employee, so 176. And then the staff recruitment is that lump sum. So let's go back. Maybe I made a mistake here and I said, uh-oh, I looked through my records again and Mike does actually meet that eligibility. I'm going to change him to yes. Click save and next, and now these numbers will be updated to reflect that change. So now I'm getting staff retention bonuses ×2 and payroll tax assistance ×2. And again, that staff recruitment that from Part B is just a lump sum. All right, so there's nothing to do here except look at that, make sure it makes sense, and do go back if you think you've made an error. And now we'll go and click Save and Next. Next are the options for use of funds. As Jessica mentioned, there will be at least 2 expense reports required. And as a nice gentle reminder here, the staff retention funds, 100% of those staff retention funds, so that first payment must be issued to as staff retention bonuses. They do need to go directly to each eligible staff person minus applicable taxes. Down below, it outlines funds, the staff recruitment funds, which can be used for sign-on bonuses. You could use them for referral incentives, and also pay for recently hired, reimburse for costs for recently hired individuals, etc. And then the payroll tax assistance funds do need to be used towards the employer portion of payroll taxes incurred while issuing bonus payments to your staff or recruitment expenses paid. All right, let's move on to our next page here. And just so that you know, we do have calculators, I'll show you those at the end, that will help you to determine if individuals are eligible, and those are on our workforce retention grant website. So next is payment information. All payments will be made through SFS, the statewide financial system. So you do need an SFS vendor ID. If you already have one, which is fantastic, it will be pre-populated for you here. If you do not currently have one, or we don't have one on file for you, you will be required to enter that in or submit a W-9 if you don't already have one. After submitting that W-9, an SFS vendor ID will be created for you. All right, so lots of read-only pages here for most of you. Next is the Save and Next button. We'll click that, and we'll finally, we're going to review our application. And as Jessica said, if your staff list or something isn't quite correct, we do want to ensure that you get this in within the time allotted. So do fill this out and then reach out to your CCR&R and they can assist you. Now, if you do see anything that is wrong right here, there are these nice edit buttons. Click these and this will allow you to edit that section. When you're ready to proceed, click Save and Next. And last are our provider attestations. Do read these carefully. By agreeing to these terms and conditions and applying for the Workforce Retention Grant, you certify that all information provided as a part of this application is true and accurate to the best of your knowledge, and you agree to each of the following statements. In order to submit your application, you do need to agree to all these terms and conditions by selecting the checkbox to the left of them. So I'm going to go ahead and click all of these. Agree, agree, agree. And lastly, you will enter your full legal name. The date will be pre-populated with the date that you submit, and now you will collect the submit button, and this will submit your application. After your application is submitted, you will receive an email with the application number and you'll be brought to this nice thank you page. On this page right here, you can download your application. So this will be a record of everything that you submitted. You can go back home and you can also view your staff list right here. And I did get my email that I submitted an application. So this will be nice. I'm going to show you a way you can download this, but this will show you all the eligible staff, their retention bonus and the retention bonus estimated amount, as well as your facility or your facility number. So we're going to go back home and, oops, sorry about that, folks. We're going to go back home and I wanted to show you one more thing before I pass it back over to Jessica. Let's see, are we in my list here? Once you've submitted your application, it will appear in your existing application list. So if you want to go back to it, which is what we're going to do right now, I'm going to click this option. We'll click Next. And now this will bring us to a page which will allow us to download. Dun, 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 dun. So it's going to show me my submitted application. It's going to show me my status, which is approved. And now what's nice about this is I can download that application in case I forgot on that submitted application page. And now I can also download that staff list right here. So if I click download staff list, this will allow me to download that. And this can be nice for your record keeping. Remember, you will have to do some expense reports, and so this will allow you to keep track of all that information. We also have our disbursement details, which will be blank, which will show you your expected payment month, a status, and how much you will be receiving. Again, could be helpful for record keeping purposes. Now, the last thing I'm going to show you real quick, just because I have control of the screen, is I want to show you our Workforce Retention Grant website, and then I'll pass it back over to Jessica. The main reason I want to show you is that we have this nice big apply button here. So if you haven't applied yet, please do. And then I wanted to show you the grant application resources for providers. So here are those handy calculators I was showing you about. We don't expect you to know off the top of your head if certain employees have met the criteria and have worked 10 hours from start of employment or from January 1st to June 26th. So you'll click on the SACC Program Eligibility Calculator available in English and Spanish, and this will allow you to input your staff members. You'll then enter the hours that they worked every week, and this will automatically tell you if they are eligible to receive the workforce retention bonus or not. And then we also have some other application assistance resources as well. All right, I am going to stop sharing, and now I'm going to bring up the PowerPoint again. I know there were some questions about eligible bonuses, and that's a perfect segue because that is exactly where Jessica's going to take us now.
Thanks so much, Piper. So now we're going to go into discussing the eligible expenses for each of the payments. So again, component A payment is the first payment you'll receive, and that will be for the staff retention bonuses. The entire grant payment must go directly to the eligible staff within 90 days of receipt of the payment. Can go ahead, Piper. For the component B portion, or the second payment that you're going to receive, this payment is going to include both the payroll tax assistance, which can be used by the organization to cover payroll taxes, and it's going to include the program staff recruitment award. And expenses that you can use the staff recruitment award for are listed here. They're also listed out in the SOI, but some examples are providing recruitment sign-on bonuses for new staff who began after the issuance date, providing referral incentives, pay for advertisement and marketing costs for staff vacancies. So there's a whole list of different ways that you can use that component B recruitment fund. That is the per program payment amount. Go ahead, Piper. So again, it's 2 payments. The program will receive payment within 30 days of their grant application being approved. There's a few things here that we want to stress for SACC programs that are a little bit different for other programs because, again, we have the understanding that your program might not be operating currently. So for the first payment that you receive, this payment may be received prior to your program opening or operating again. You should not issue any payment to staff until after your program is open and operating. SACC programs, so to touch a little bit more on that, those staff that are currently working during the summer, if you operate a camp, those staff are not eligible for this payment. You should not make any payments to staff until you are open and operating for the new school year. SACC programs must issue payments to eligible staff within 45 days after resuming operations during the school calendar year, or return to OCFS if the program does not resume operations as outlined in the SOI. So if for some reason you applied and your program does not resume their operations, you should reach out to OCFS for next steps on what you need to do with the funds that you did get paid for. For the payroll tax assistance and recruitment, your program will receive this payment within 30 days of completing the first expense report. Now we're going to go into expense reports. So again, there'll be a minimum of 2 expense reports, possibly more than that. So for expense reporting, the first expense report is going to be available 30 days after the first payment is made. Once that's submitted, then your second payment gets processed. So again, SACC programs may not be open when your first payment is received, and you should not complete the expense report until 30 days has elapsed from the date that you started operating again, or until you've paid at least one eligible staff the bonus amount. SACC programs will be required to report the date when they started operating and the date their first eligible employee started to work on their when you get your first expense report. Those will be questions that you will be asked on the expense report. The second expense report will be available 30 days after your second payment is made. And again, there may be additional expense reports if needed for federal reporting purposes. And you can go ahead. So that is it for the application review and presentation. We do have a lot of quick reference guides, our FAQ document, information on the call center and on CCRNRs that are on our website. We will be updating that FAQ document based on this TA session that we did last week and this week and all of your great questions. We will do our best to get through as many of those questions as we can today. And if we're unable to get to your question, again, we're going to take these questions and add them to our FAQ document and update that information as soon as possible. So now we have some time left. We have about 15 minutes left where we can go through some questions. So some of them I have answered in the chat. So I'm just going to scroll through and pick some out that I think maybe we did not answer in the presentation. A lot of what happens if someone should be eligible but is not on the list. So again, if that happens, please still submit your application, reach out to your local CCRNR. That information is available on our website. Or you can reach out. So reach out to the CCRNR, they will assist you. And if the staff that you need added is determined eligible, they'll escalate that to OCFS. But please still submit your application. Let me see. How do we prove that a staff member has worked 15 hours per week? So again, we have calculators available on our website that can help you with calculating that. And for the SACC programs, it's actually 10 hours per week. So you just want to make sure that you're using that calculator to average out the 10 hours per week. If you have two programs with separate licenses and you apply for staff under the DCC license, can the SACC still get Part B? I heard that if you indicate they are being paid under another program, you can still receive the $6,000. Is that correct? That's correct. So each program receives the component B payment, which is a per program payment. And then you also receive the component A payment. So the component A payment is per staff. So that payment is only based on the number of eligible staff that you end up having on your roster. And employees cannot be claimed by multiple programs, so they cannot get, if you have an employee that works in your DCC and in your SACC, they can only be claimed for one program or the other. They cannot get paid through each program. But your program will still receive the per program amount for the component B or the recruitment payment. If I have a summer program, but not all staff work during the summer, but will be back in September, can I apply now and all my staff are eligible? Or should I wait until they are back to work in September to apply? You should apply now. The staff roster that will appear on your application, that information is from 6/26/23. So any staff that was eligible or on your roster at that point will be listed, and you will determine on your application of those staff which ones are eligible. So if you know that a staff is returning in September, you should absolutely say yes, that staff is eligible. If you have a staff on your list that you know is not returning, you should not claim that staff. You should say no because you know that they're not returning. If you have a staff that says yes, they are returning, you claim them, they don't come back in September, you can then use those funds towards recruitment. And on your expense report, you'll be able to indicate that that staff did not return and you were not able to pay them the bonus amount. And then you can use those funds towards recruitment. If a staff member is allocated to a different grant and we are receiving funds for this person, is the person still eligible for this grant? That one, Thomas, I'm going to recommend that you reach out to your CCRNR. They can probably assist you a little bit better on that question and just ask you some more details to help better answer that question. If you've submitted staff clearances to DOH, but they have not processed, if that has happened where, again, there's staff that are not on your roster, please reach out to your local CCRNR and they will assist you in escalating the staff that need to be added to your roster. Where can I find the expense report? Can you include a link? The expense reports are not available yet. You will not receive expense reports until after you receive your first payment. Would moving the payment received in payment A to payment B decrease the amount for payment B? No, it would not decrease the amount. Every program that is eligible, you will receive the per program payment B amount. If for some reason you have a staff that you claim because you thought they were returning, they did not return, you can use that money then towards recruiting. And it will not impact the base amount of the $6,000 that you received for that payment B. It would be in addition to the $6,000. Can you elaborate on the required attestation about accepting families who receive funding through child care assistance? So as Piper showed in the demo on the application, there's a list of checkboxes of different things that you have to attest to. One of the things on that list is that if a family came to you with that received child care assistance, you would accept that family in your program. So that is what you're attesting to in that portion of the application. Is there a way to print out the entire application, including the names prior to completing? As Piper showed in the demonstration, there is a way to print that information at the end of the application. Our program specifically, nope, let me skip. Okay, I answered that one. Is there a way to know which email is on file? Sometimes the director moves on and their email is associated. Is there a way to confirm the change the email before applying? Yes, you can reach out to your licensor or regulator. They would be able to update that information for you or confirm with you what email is associated to your account. If your email is correct, but you still don't receive the code, you should reach out to your local CCRNR and they can assist you with troubleshooting that. If it's an issue that needs to be escalated, they will send it on to OCFS. Sorry, I'm just going through the rest of the questions. Some of them we've already answered, so I'm just going through to see which ones we haven't answered. Do the employee names come up or do we have to enter them? As Piper demonstrated, the employee names are pre-populated. You will not be able to add your own employees. So again, if an employee is not on your staff roster, you should reach out to your local CCR&R and they can assist you with that. Staff eligible. If you have any questions about the type of child caring roles that are eligible, I would refer you to the SOI and to our website, and it does list out exactly which roles are eligible, which child caring roles are eligible. And again, the best way for you to access that is by going to our website. Regarding staff question 2, if they currently are not working but were returning in September, do we mark yes or no? You would mark yes. If you know the staff is returning in September, you would mark yes for question 2 on the staff eligibility. If we have multiple sites and programs that qualify, do we submit for each site? Yes, you will apply per program, so per license. You will apply for each licensed program. So rate of is the list generated by the FAM system? We have had issues with staff being deleted. Yes, the list is coming from FAMs. If you have an issue with your roster or staff that are not on there that should be, again, just reach out to the CCR&R and they can help you with that. My staff work at our multiple programs, at least 3 of our in-house sites each. Do we mark yes for each site? No, you do not mark yes for each site. You pick one site for that staff. Each staff is only eligible for one bonus payment, one component A payment. So if the staff member is not planning on returning post the 6/26/23 date, they are not eligible. That is correct. If you know the staff member is not returning and they're on your staff roster, you should not claim them. They're not eligible. How long will the OCFS turnaround be if you contact them about the missing staff roster? We are doing our best to have these updated as quickly as possible. So once you contact your CCR&R and they escalate the issue, you will hear from OCFS regarding your issue and once your issue has been updated. Can the staff recruitment funds be used for staff who do not work under the SACC license, but work for our CBO and do office work? I would reach out to your CCR&R just to provide a little bit more information around that, and they can help clarify that or escalate to OCFS. But I would refer to the SOI also. It lists out the staff that are eligible. It also lists out on the allowable expenses for recruitment funds.
I just just wanted to bring up the training and support page. Jessica is referring to the SOI a lot, which is great. And you might go, where should I find that? So if you go to the Workforce Grant website right here, and item number 2 is the statement of grant opportunity. And what's nice about it is it's a PDF, so you can search for certain keywords. I do that all the time. So search for the terms you're looking for, and I'll show you everything in that document that has that. You might need to add an S, remove an S, play around a little bit, but do go to the Workforce Retention Grant website, find that SOI, and use that super helpful search function.
Thanks, Piper. I'll try to get to a couple more questions. And again, like Piper just showed, if we don't get to your question, we are going to update our FAQ document in the next couple of days. And you can also reach out to the call center or to your CCRNR if you just have general questions about the application or eligibility. Do we need to pay the bonuses out all at once, or can we spread over time? And if we can do over time, is there a date funds have to be spent by? So yes, you can spread it out a little bit, but all the full amount of the bonus must be paid to the employee within 90 days of receiving payment for that. What if I'm in the process of getting approved for a SACC? For SACC programs, you had to have been licensed on or prior to 7/13/23. So if you were not licensed or registered or permitted by that date, then you would not be eligible for this grant opportunity. If you receive the Stabilization 2 grant, do you need to complete the grant before applying to this one? So you need to have completed all of your expense reports for previous grants in order to get approved for this grant.
And Jessica, just a quick time check. We are at 10:58, probably almost 10:59, just so you can, tailor your last question or two.
Yep, I think a lot of the questions we got answered. Again, I would encourage you to reach out to these resources if you have additional questions that we did not answer. We will post this recording so that everyone can refer back to it. And I think that's as many questions as we're going to have time to get to today. So I thank you all very much for attending, and we will have this information available for you on our website.